Welcome back from the ad break, and let's continue where we are going to be wrapping up our lesson. So during this lesson, we were focusing on interpreting graphs, where we looked at the linear graphs, which were the increasing graphs and the decreasing graphs. Then we looked at gradient, where we were defining the gradient and also interpreting the gradient as well. And lastly, we looked at intercepts, where we focused on the y-intercept. These are the keywords that we were looking at during our lesson, which is the linear graph, gradient, and the y-intercept. Let's look at some common errors or things that you should be careful of when you are interpreting graphs. Remember, an increasing linear graph has a positive gradient. Now, this would mean that a decreasing linear graph has a negative gradient. Also remember that a constant linear graph has a gradient of 0. So that is when a graph has no steep at all or no slope at all, then that gradient is 0. Remember that the higher the gradient, the steeper the linear graph, or the more steep the linear graph is. So if the gradient is high, the line will be very steep. Remember that C in the standard form y is equals to mx plus c is the value for the y-intercept. A horizontal linear graph does have a y-intercept. So if a linear graph is horizontal, then it does have a y-intercept. Let's end off our lesson with a nice challenge. So, we are given here, the following linear graph is drawn. X is equals to 3. And as we can see, it is drawn there. So, interpret this graph in terms of, is it an increasing or a decreasing graph? What is the gradient of the graph? What is the y-intercept of the graph? That's a nice challenge for you, but I know you can answer it easily. Thank you for joining us for today's lesson. We hope to see you next time. Goodbye.